and our weekly video segment to take you into the back shelves of your local video store, back where it says horror videos, and where kids are devouring some awful films that we call the video nasties.
Are you freebasing? Inquiring minds want to know.
I have to break free from this culture of mechanical reproductions and the thick incrustations dying on the surface.
Fuck the prime time, bitch!
Mom with the new flesh.
The pain, I can assure you, will be exquisite. As for our deaths, come with me and be immortal.
We have such sights to show you.
Gotta return some videotapes.
Hello, horror hounds, and welcome to the It Slays podcast. I'm your humble host, Rowan.
And this is Kurt Russell's saucy chess computer, Mike.
And I'm Colton.
And we are back, not just any normal, we are back. We are back celebrating the 3-year anniversary of the It Slays podcast.
Not 3 years.
I don't know if that's 3 years of our life wasted, or...
Well, I haven't been here for 3 years. I've just been listening for 3 years, so...
Well,
that's more important than anything.
I was gonna say, I don't know what's worse.
Oof, true.
In another 3 years, when you're like, oh my god... What's going on?
What have I done?
What is life? But yeah, we're here celebrating. Mike's got his wine out.
We should add, because of technical difficulties, my glass of wine is almost gone.
I was going to say, let's be realistic. As always, Mike is always celebrating. We're just in the background fodder.
You are absolutely my celebration fodder.
Well, before we get started and jump into what we've been watching, I just wanted to kind of thank all the people that engaged with the poll over the last couple of weeks because, we got over, close to 900 votes overall, across all the social media platforms and whatnot, which is pretty incredible. And I think most of them went to The Thing. And Bram Stoker's Dracula, weirdly enough, I think was second when I tallied up all the votes. People really love that one.
Because people have taste.
I actually haven't seen it since high school, so I can't even comment on it. But I just wanted to thank everyone for rallying behind what movie you wanted to watch, and that's why we're here, and we'll be reviewing The Thing later on tonight. So I'll toss it back to Rowan so we can get into what we've been watching.
I was gonna say, I'm just imagining the 20 people that didn't vote for The Thing that are just fucking hate this episode.
Absolutely pissed.
Cecily.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of you, Cecily.
Yeah, there were so many people rallying behind Hush, and then obviously when House of Wax got voted out, Cecily was pretty pissed. So, yeah, it hasn't always been fun in the polls, but, lots of...
It's a blood sport, man.
I know she clicked on this episode hoping it was some sort of troll, and we're actually, it's House of Wax.
No, the troll was back in September when I joined.
So, we'll talk about first what we've been watching, what we've been reading, just, any of the media we have been consuming since last time we convened. We will start with you, Mike.
I have been watching Euphoria.
Of
because
course.
the new
I
season is
watched
excellent.
it.
Yeah, it's really good. There's lots of things happening and lots of great music being played and lots of crazy memes happening. So, when a show is just getting thousands of memes 4 hours after it airs, that it's doing something right. That's all I have to say about that. And I actually just got a new book today that I'm starting, and it's Angela Davis's autobiography from 1974 that just got a re-release with some new introduction or a foreword or something by her. So we love Angela Davis. Everyone loves Angela Davis. So I honestly can't. I wanted to read it for years. Toni Morrison edited it. Love Toni Morrison. So that's where I'm at media-wise. What about y'all?
I haven't been watching a whole lot recently. I was just kind of busy with the polls we were doing and a couple of other projects on the side. But I did catch up on a couple of Oscar nominees. The Eyes of Tammy Faye was one, which... Honestly, I don't know. It was kind of mediocre. I just heard Mike be excited.
No.
But yeah, I thought it was pretty mediocre.
I love Tammy Faye and I love Jessica Chastain.
Oh, really? I think they
Yeah.
definitely could have slammed like televangelism a little bit harder. They wind up kind of making it a little bit of a puff piece about her, which wasn't really for me. I also watched The Worst Person in the World, which is one that it has like a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes or something, and I thought that was good. Just, I mean, it's a little bit overhyped, I guess. I think it just got like a nomination this morning for screenplay or something. A couple of things I guess maybe our audience would be a little bit more interested in is I actually watched the folk horror documentary on Shudder, the 3-hour long one that it's like it has a weird name on it. It's Woodlands Dark and Days Bewitched, a history of folk horror. And overall, it was pretty good. It is broken up into like 5 or 6 chapters, so it's kind of easy for you to digest. Like, even though it's 3 hours long, it's like there's like a break probably 45 minutes in, and then an hour in, and then like an hour and a half in. So I kind of watched like 1 or 2 chapters each day for last weekend, and yeah, it's worth watching. I mean, a lot of what they covered I've heard of before, and a lot of I never even heard tell of. You know, they got literally like 100 different folk horror movies on there, so that's definitely worth checking out. I don't know if you guys are really into folk horror, but
I've been waiting for that to come out for a very long time. I haven't watched it yet, but I do this thing where I'm like, something like that I was really looking forward to, I'm gonna like save for when I have like a couple days off and like make a ritual out of it, because the person who did it wrote one of my absolute favorite books on horror films of all time, Care La Jeunesse, House of Psychotic Women. It's, I think, one of the top 5 books ever written on horror movies. And it actually might be one of my favorite film books ever, too. It's just wonderful. Everyone should check it out. I think they might be putting out a new edition of it soon. But anyway, yeah, so I loved that, and I'm really looking forward to like seeing her documentary. And hearing you say nice things about it is always good.
Yeah. Other than that, I snuck out this afternoon. I never even logged it on Letterboxd to kind of surprise you guys, but I snuck out this afternoon, went to the theater, and I saw Scream. So,
oh, nice.
Excuse me, is the theater open again?
It opened yesterday. So
okay. Yeah,
well, so I checked out Scream this afternoon. I won't really get into it because I don't want to like kind of color your guys' perception of the movie. I did think it was good overall. Definitely some qualms with it, but yeah, the less said about that one, the better for now. I can't wait to kind of talk about it once you guys have seen it. So,
well, I'm off tomorrow, so I guess I'll be going to my first movie in 2 years.
Oh man, yeah, you should go check it out.
I have downloaded, I have to say, illegal activity warning. I have downloaded every pirated cam version on the internet that I could find of that, and none of them were watchable because I couldn't hear any of the dialogue. I saw the first 10 minutes a couple of times skipping through, so that's, I can't wait. I'm very glad.
Yeah, I wouldn't say my dialogue was perfect because there was a group of teenagers sitting behind me on their phones and they were constantly going off and they were texting and squealing and stuff. But I mean, that kind of adds to the whole Scream
That's part
vibe
of the experience,
anyways.
Yeah.
Exactly, right. So I wasn't really even angry about it. So yeah, but that's basically what I've been watching. What about you, Rowan?
So I've watched a couple things. Obviously, we're still pushing through. Me and Auxiliary are watching The Boys still. Not making great progress. Like, I think we're only on episode 4 now. We're just kind of taking our time with it, enjoying it. I watched the new Netflix series Murderville, which I really...
How was that?
I really, really enjoyed it. Like, what a interesting and odd concept for a show. So, it's not giving anything away. Basically, it's a scripted procedural, but they have a celebrity guest who doesn't know the script, and they have to improv the entire episode. So it's basically just Will Arnett throwing wrenches into it, making the improv super silly and difficult. Also telling a narrative, and then it's kind of a game show, because at the end, the celebrity has to guess who the murderer is. It's like a murder mystery parody, except TV show. Yeah. But it's fun. It's super fun. I got some good chuckles out of it.
I didn't know that's the type of show it was. I've seen it in my browsing, and that's not what I thought it was.
I would have had no idea either. I figured it would have been another Only Murders in the Building or kind of a Knives Out or something. But a friend of mine just watched it recently as well, and she said, she kind of told me the pitch, and I was like, oh, okay, that's a little bit more interesting than what I thought it was going to be. But yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Other than Murderville, I managed to knock out a couple rewatches, couple films that I've never seen before. Listeners would probably be into this. I went on Shudder and I watched The Dark and the Wicked, which is by the same guy that did The Strangers. It's a Shudder exclusive, I believe. I don't know, maybe someday we'll review it or something. I enjoyed it. Scared me. I watched it at my mom's place. So we were in the middle of the woods. I had, all the lights off. There's no street lights, no anything.
Nice. Yeah.
And I thought it was effective. It was like, it's kind of like simple, but effective. And then I, revisited some childhood favorites. I rewatched The Mask. Because I just picked that up on Blu-ray. Fantastic, as I always remembered. Some of these Jim Carrey movies I revisit are not great that, I used to love, but The Mask...
One might even say they were embarrassing.
The Mask, really holds up. It's kind of interesting, because as a kid, I never thought about, this is a comic book movie. And now that I'm older and I know The Mask was a comic book, so it felt like a comic book movie. I enjoyed it. Then I rewatched, I was on the comic book theme. Rewatched Howard the Duck.
Oh my God.
Always good.
I thought you were kidding about that.
No, I love Howard the Duck. The soundtrack is amazing.
Of course, the dude that loves Howard the Duck, would also love a Serbian film and just all these movies that nobody likes. Just, impeccable taste.
No shade, Ro.
Leah Thompson is amazing in it.
I agree.
The music is fantastic, which a lot is actually sung by Leah Thompson. And if you're, if you're into the Howard the Duck, rebel girl punk vibes, it's just, I'm living for it.
Ugh.
And then my last two, I rewatched the original Batman and Batman Returns. We won't get into that heavy.
Let's not.
I don't want Colton to leave the podcast. We had some heated debates. I think they're the two best Batman films ever made. I think Tim Burton is best. Batman Returns especially, I think, is just awesome. I think anyone that doesn't like that movie is a big fucking idiot.
Well, we won't get into it, but after Rowan messaged me his hot takes the other night, I just muted the chat and went to bed. I was like, I can't get into this. I'm getting too fired up at 2 a.m. So,
but that is everything I watched. I think it's about time. You came for one reason and 2 words. Let's get into the trailer. The Thing, 1982, and then we'll be back. Colton will be hitting us with that delicious bio. Let's get into it.
100,000 years ago, it came to our galaxy. Trapped in the wasteland of Antarctica, it could not escape. Now, it is free to become one of us. John Carpenter's The Thing, rated R.
All right. The Thing was released in 1982 and is directed by John Carpenter, written by Bill Lancaster and John W. Campbell, Jr. And the story is as follows. At a remote base in Antarctica, a group of American researchers are disturbed by a Norwegian helicopter pursuing what appears to be a sled dog. Soon, the researchers discover that this is no ordinary dog, but instead a parasitic, extraterrestrial life form that assimilates and imitates other organisms. As the base's body count dwindles and the men are consumed by their paranoia, they learn a terrible truth, that they can trust no one, as any one of them could be The Thing.
First experiences, it's weird. I think about this film as an iconic film, but I'm sure there's some people that have never seen this, such as Mike. I know he's on into this kind of movie.
I've never seen a John Carpenter movie. I've never heard of him.
Who is John Carpenter? I was like,
sorry to this man.
No, let's start with first experiences. Colton, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so The Thing is always a movie that I knew of, kind of growing up. It is kind of iconic. It's one of those classic, DVD or VHS covers at the store I'd see all the time. Not the one of, the man wandering through the tundra with the, the bright light coming out of his parka, but more of, the one that's, just beneath the ice, and it just seems like something is beneath the ice. You guys know what I'm talking about?
Like a face or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, it's like a face that's obscured a little bit. So it's always been one that's caught my eye at video stores, but I probably only watched it for the first time I don't know, probably about a decade ago. It was definitely, I was a couple of years into university, and a good friend of mine, Josh, who is a co-host on my previous podcast, we decided one afternoon to throw it on. and we were completely like sucked into the movie. So much so that like by the end of it, we were kind of like breaking down like the infection timeline, like, oh, who was infected at what point, trying to like figure it all out. And then it was very much like, well, frig it, let's just move and, you know, roll on into the prequel movie. So then we just watched, you know, 2011's The Thing directly after it. And, you know, I think that movie gets a little bit of a bad rap because I enjoyed that one as well. So yeah, it was just very much like an afternoon like full of The Thing. So yeah, I've seen it a couple times since then, but, you know, only I can count it on one hand for sure. What about you, Mike?
I honestly, it's one of these that has like been in my life for so long that I don't even remember when I first saw it, but it was a long time ago. It was definitely after I saw Halloween, which I saw when I was, you know, very young, like 11 years old or whatever. So it was like when I watched Halloween and was like, oh my God, this John Carpenter person. And then I had heard of The Thing. And again, like you said, seen the covers in video stores and stuff, and clips of it playing in other movies and stuff like that. So I just remember seeing it at some point, and, you know, have seen it, I don't know, dozens of times probably since. Maybe I don't know if that's exaggerating, but I've definitely seen it a lot. I've owned it on like every home video format. I think I probably have a VHS that I bought at like a going out of business movie store somewhere. I definitely had some like cool DVDs of it, and got the Scream Factory DVD, or Blu-ray, which by the way is one of the only things in my life I've ever won. I won a giveaway on Instagram, and I got a free copy of that and Carrie.
Nice.
When they put the 2 special editions out. Yeah, and me and our friend from work, Haley, shout out to Haley. Me and her and her boyfriend Aaron got together and, you know, made a big night out of like watching both of them. And I gave her Carrie and I kept The Thing because I already had Carrie.
Awesome.
Anyway, so I just have seen it so many times that, like, honestly, it's just always been in my life.
I'm about the same. I can't really remember the first time I saw this, but it was pretty young. This is something that always, as far as I can remember, I see this every couple of years. I definitely couldn't count on my fingers and toes how many times I've seen this. I said before we started recording, just last night I watched it twice. So, research, guys, research. I'm dedicated to you, the listeners. But yeah, it's something that I feel everyone I talk to either like knows about it or has seen it. Definitely iconic and maybe decisive. I don't know. I really haven't met a lot of people that don't overly like this movie, even remotely. So, that would be my first experiences. Now, this is gonna be possibly the toughest question to answer, where we start when we talk about any movie, our favorite kill. I'm gonna do / favorite just special effects scene. I mean, scene period in this. And we'll start with you, Mike.
Well, this kind of has no, it doesn't have a bit of everything. No, yes, it does have a bit of everything in it. My favorite scene, because, well, many reasons, but it encapsulates a lot of the, like, ideas in this movie, but also a bit of the special effects and also some of the just, like, badassery and the, like, really good acting. And it's the, like, blood test scene kind of near the end. I love that because it's classic John Carpenter, like, ratcheting up the tension. Even in like a sci-fi horror movie, it's like he just knows how to work at like fucking Hitchcock, you know? Like, it's so, to me, like just such a great, like, formally well done scene, and like super tense. And I just loved the like bringing blood into it, because I like doing a reading of it where it's like, you know, kind of hinting at being like an AIDS allegory or something like that. So to me, like, the whole like, let's test our blood and like have all these dudes in the room is kind of like a really cool scene. But then of course you get that really cool kill where the guy is hanging out at the top of the other guy, and I just think that there are several like canon, you know, legendary iconic scenes and images of the special effects in this movies, and I don't feel like that gets enough credit for being as fucking insane and badass as it is, because like that guy's body flopping around, like coming out of the thing's mouth, is like so fucking disturbing. I'm sorry. And like you almost laugh at it, but it's so well done, it's actually like horrifying. So I just think that scene encapsulates like really good special effects and really good tension. It just all meshed together.
Yeah, it's so over the top. It like turns into like almost like a Venus flytrap in a way, and like eats the guy. Right? Yeah. It's so awesome.
You're like, you want to laugh at it, but like it's actually still so well done that it's like, like it's like that kind of nervous laughter, like this is actually terrifying, but again, it's so over the top. It's like, is it camp? Is it horror? Is it both?
Yeah. Even that blood testing scene, like even this watch, I jumped at this watch, like when it's such an effective like jump scare, especially from someone like Carpenter who doesn't really ever rely on jump scares.
Yeah.
It also
but
comes
it was the tension, right?
Yeah,
yeah, and it also comes like mid joke as well. Like if you know like the beats of a horror scene, it doesn't even like adhere to those beats at all. It's just literally mid sentence of a joke. It just like, it pops out of the the petri dish or whatever. Yeah, it's a very effective jump scare.
I was gonna say quickly, like I think it's funny that you brought up about like the Hitchcock kind of tension building. I didn't watch a lot of it, but I also have the Scream Factory Blu-ray of this, which get if you don't own this, because it's massive. Like there's a whole disc of special features.
It's so funny. I have it and I've never watched any of the special features. I just think the movie looks beautiful.
So it's kind of funny because it seems like less than a month I'm bringing this name up again, but Mick Garris interviews John Carpenter, who
nice.
Also did the interviews for the Crazy Conspiracists in The Shining.
Oh, no.
Who also directed the remake of The Shining.
Yeah. Interesting. I mean, side note, it was interesting that Mick Garris talked about when he was young, he was on the set of the thing. Like, apparently he worked for Universal, and he kind of was like a company man. And I just thought it was funny because in the interview, Mick Garris specifically brings up how he felt there was a heavy Hitchcock influence in this with building the tension. And, they talked about how the horror trope of everything kind of coming in threes, like, you're okay, nope, that's a jump scare. And how Carpenter, like, really played with that, so, to tear down those expectations.
Yeah, because he even says to what's-his-face, the old guy, I'm saving you for last.
Yeah.
And, you're thinking you're just gonna keep getting that thing, and, like, literally, like Colton said, it breaks the, like, beats, and you're here waiting for them to move on, and then all of a sudden it just, like, explodes in your face.
Yeah, exactly. And sorry, I interrupted, Colton.
Yeah, I was just about to get into my favorite scene, which is the dog scene, specifically when the dog walks into, like, the middle of the other, like, huskies in the cell, or, the pound or whatever. And, like, yeah, it's like when it starts consuming all of them and, like, its head falls off and there's just this gaping maw there. For me, it was funny, like, as I was watching the movie, I have a friend who's not very good with horror movies, but she's kind of been dabbling in it more and more. And as I was watching this, I was like, oh, she could probably handle this movie. Like, it's not too bad up until that point. That point, it, like, winds up being like, oh my God, this is, like, some of the most effective body horror I've ever seen. And obviously a lot of people, when it comes to, like, animal violence in movies, they're not very good at it. And that scene just goes all out with, like, spewing acid on one of the dogs, and one of them gets shot and the other one's getting like strangled. It's just an absolutely horrific scene that is also just, like, such a great showcase of special effects, like all the puppetry and all the models and everything on hand. It's
horrifying.
It's
I've seen this like dozens of times, and every time the like whippy bits come out, I like literally like my skin fucking crawls. Like, it's so well done.
Yeah, I found this watch too. I and that stuff usually doesn't overly bug me, but like I was like how great, because I was like, oh, this is like really disturbing. But I was gonna say, for that scene specifically, I was very surprised because I watched the thing on the special effects, and they were talking about how a lot of that scene, it's a rubber dog. Like, I was thinking, like, until they kind of show it like cell by cell, and they're like, this is the rubber dog, this isn't a rubber dog. I couldn't tell from watching it like the first go around. I was like, it looks pretty real to me.
Yeah, I certainly never noticed it was a rubber dog, at least not until it like kind of shedded all of its fur and whatnot, and then it was obviously supposed to be something other than straight up a dog,
You're telling me that thing wasn't real?
Well, that's something with the special effects in this movie. I don't know if they look truly realistic, like they would exist. Like, if I saw it, like I would think it's an effect or something, but just like how effective it's done in this movie, and then like how they all just look like wet and gross.
It's slimy.
I forget the name of the chemical, but apparently it's the same chemical that they use to hold Twinkies together.
It just looks like lube.
Yeah.
Are you sure they didn't just like put Astroglide all over it and call it a day?
No, they talk. I was reading about it, and they talk about it, and Carpenter said like it was kind of funny because they basically had to go to like factories that made Twinkies and buy like barrels of this stuff.
What the hell?
I have to Google if Twinkies are held together by lube now, just because I don't believe it.
Everything is really wet in the movie, and I think about like a scene when I was reading about it that was pointed out was that when they go to the Norwegian site and you have the guy frozen, but he's like kind of still wet. They were talking behind the scenes about how it's just a rubber doll.
Yeah.
Carpenter talks about coming on set and seeing it and being like, yup, this movie's fucked. Like, that looks terrible. And all the special effects guys are like, no, don't worry about it. Wait till we make everything wet. Anything wet looks real. It's gonna look fine. But all of these scenes and all the scenes we're gonna talk about, like, when you hear that, you're like, oh, that's kind of funny and like, why is that true? But that wetness to everything, like, really adds this, like, visceral layer to it. Everything.
Well,
it's like the inside becoming the outside.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, it doesn't look real, but there's like a tactility to it. Like, you know what it would feel like, which kind of makes it fit in the scene a little bit or make it feel more real. And also, since it's supposed to be an extraterrestrial organism, right? Like, maybe it isn't supposed to look exactly like it would fit in our world anyways, right? So you can kind of give it that benefit of a doubt as well. But Rowan, what's your favorite scene?
I'm gonna do I think we coined this the Exilia cheat. I kind of have two.
No.
One's not like a major, so one of my favorite scenes is actually the sequence where we get the title of the movie.
Yeah.
Like burning through the black.
Oh, love it.
Absolutely love that. Now, I admittedly, and we haven't said it yet, so this is a reimagining of another movie from like the 50s, which is like apparently John Carpenter's like all-time favorite movie.
He essentially like references every one of that director's movies in all of his movies. Yeah.
But he claimed that intro is actually like ripped right out of the original one.
They watched that in like Halloween, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just absolutely love that title sequence, because I don't know about you guys, but my least favorite part of this was the spaceship intro.
I literally have that in my notes. I was like, the only thing I don't like about this movie is that.
So I don't know if we want to get into it right now, but yes, mine's not necessarily the spaceship intro, but when it comes back again near the end of the movie for like 2 or 3 minutes, but maybe we'll get into that in a second after you explain all your favorite scenes.
Yeah, so like I said, like, to me, if I'm like, I always, whenever I'm like reviewing these for the podcast, I try to imagine if I've seen it before, like, what would my reaction as a first-time viewer be? Like, to me, I'm like, man, I would totally hate that, but then that title comes in and I'm like, oh, I am fucking sold.
Yeah.
My real favorite scene, which I feel is also kind of a cheat code, the iconic scene of this film is, the head peeling off and getting like the arachnid type legs. And just like everyone's reaction to watching this head walk off. Well, like we said, with all these other favorite scenes, like, not so much that like when the head's coming off that you're like, oh, that looks so real, but it's just like gooey and the sound, and it's just like this very particular type of visceral that I'm just like, oh, this is creepy. I hate spiders. Like, that's my number one fear.
Oh yeah, severe arachnophobic here.
Yeah, so the fact that it grows these like weird arachnid spider legs just creeps me the fuck out. And yeah, that's my favorite like kill scene.
Yeah, it's funny because like that head spider or head crab or whatever, it's probably literally in the movie for like 15 to 20 seconds probably, but yeah, it's so many of the effects in this movie, it's just like it's so memorable, right? It's so well done with the puppeteering and like the special effects and just the wetness of it all,
I feel like people who haven't even seen the movie are like, oh my god, that's the one with the like spider head thing, right?
Yeah. And also, I mean, the defib scene that happens, well, it's the same scene, like it happens like a couple of seconds right before that. That's like a good jump scare as well, where they get the defib out and the whole torso opens up and consumes his arms, you know? Like,
yeah, well, you're prepped for a longer, more tense scene.
Yeah.
Like, you're kind of primed for that. And then it's like, you think you got another minute or two before anything weird happens, and then it's like, no, man. No, say goodbye.
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of a natural transition to just quickly talk about, you know, I say this every time we watch a movie. My big thing is always like a pace thing. How is the movie paced? And this, I seem surprised every time I rewatch this, because I always think about stuff kind of like Halloween, where we have that real, like, drawn out. We don't get a lot of Halloween kills happen in like this small little bunch, but we have all this like tension building, and you do get tension building in this, but I was actually kind of surprised. I'm like, people are dying like every 5 minutes in this. Like,
I'm just gonna say it, Halloween is like much more boring than this is. This movie, like,
100%.
I had to pause it just for like a little like bathroom break and I was like, oh my god, there's only 40 minutes left of the movie. Like, I was like, holy shit, this movie flies by. Where like,
and
Halloween,
you're like, half the cast is already gone.
Exactly.
In
yeah.
Halloween, there's like literally 3 people for like an hour.
Yeah, like, obviously it's really effective in what it's doing, but every single time, like, I feel like I remember Halloween and like it more in my head than every single time when I watch it. I go like, oh, this is a little slow, you know. But that's just me.
And I was going to say, probably the top movie that anyone that argues for practical effects, like, uses.
Yeah, with good reason. Like I said, when we were talking about it earlier, I even thinking about it, my hair was standing on end. Like that scene, you know, with the body out of the top of the other body. But name any of those scenes. The dog scene, my hair is standing on end. The fucking chest scene, there's no effect in this movie that didn't make my fucking skin crawl.
Oh, certainly for body horror, it's right up, like, probably the best example of body horror on film, I would say.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with that.
I'm thinking of something like I feel like, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but the movie Society.
Yeah.
I have, yeah.
So that one, I feel like they literally took the practical effects of this and were like, let's just literally make a movie that's just this, but like with mountains of coke sprinkled on top of it. And that's it.
Well,
and
Society...
Again, I love Society, but like this is like clearly the most effective version of that type of body horror, and oh god.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say
Kills.
Society.
He's such a master.
Yeah, it has like one great scene of body horror, which is like the flesh orgy section,
oh
right?
My god, yeah.
You know, but the rest of the movie just does not hit consistently like The Thing does, I don't think, for even its effects, right? Obviously putting the story and like everything else aside, but just if we're looking at visual effects, I think, it's just this one got in the bag.
There's definitely like a Mount Rushmore of the wettest movies. And I feel like it's like Society.
I can't believe you just fucking said that phrase.
Society, The Thing, and probably Frank and Hellraiser, I feel. I'm not sure that it gets any wetter than those 3.
Well, I mean, Mount Rushmore is 4 faces, isn't it? I think from what I remember in my head, Videodrome is pretty, like, nasty as well, but it's been a while since I've seen it, so...
Yeah,
maybe Fly? The Fly?
Yeah,
like
The Fly can make it up as the 4th wettest movie.
Y'all, we're just, like, throwing out David Cronenberg's entire fucking canon right now.
Yeah.
Like, here we go. Wettest movie.
That's the official Watch Mojo.
Spin the wheel for
list
any
for
David
wettest movies
Cronenberg
ever.
Yeah. I think we've been like a little too kind to this movie overall. Obviously, I think we all really like this movie, but is there any like issues you guys have at all with the movie? Because like I said, the spaceship a little bit for me is kind of always bumpy when I watch this.
I will admit, if I have any issue with the movie, it's not just the like cheap, shoddy, shitty looking spaceship at the beginning, but it's the fact that they kind of show that at all.
Yeah.
I in my head, and I think when I first saw it when I was like much younger, like, you know, whenever that was, in my tween years. And I feel like years passed before I'd seen it again. And I didn't remember them actually showing any of the spaceship at all. I feel like they more like used their scientific knowledge to like build inferences to get to the fact that it was an alien, or we are supposed to come to that conclusion. And then I remember like years having gone by and then rewatching it. And when they actually show the ship and stuff, I'm like, that actually disappoints me because it's just too basic.
Yeah,
it's
I
too
agree.
obvious. You know what I mean? Yeah.
It feels like a holdover from the earlier versions of this, which Rowan mentioned that, like, you know, this was based on The Thing from Another World, which is based on an old story. Who goes there, right? It just feels like from a different sort of science fiction movie than we've been watching up to.
Yeah, it's like the Ed Wood era holdover or something.
Yeah, like specifically for me, like when they build the saucer, or they explicitly like show the saucer near the end of the movie, and like Blair was supposed to be I don't know, like that little section, which is only in like 2 to 3 minutes of the movie, opens up so many questions in my head that it is just like, it's almost like a, you know, a tower of cards or dominoes or whatever. It's like, okay, wait, so when was he getting out the scavenge off, you know, the helicopter to build this flying saucer? Wait, did he dig this whole tunnel with his hands? He dug this whole section, you know, this hangar beneath? Okay, what is the saucer for? Is it just to get to the mainland? Because if so, then why didn't he just take the helicopter?
And how is he going to fly it out of a fucking hole in the ground? with a little with a little 3 foot wide opening.
Yeah, and like it's all supposed to happen in like 4 or 5 days, right? And it's just like, fuck, it's only 2 to 3 minutes of the movie. Like, why does it even have to be in here? They pretty much introduce it and then throw a Molotov on it like 30 seconds later.
You could cut it out, and it honestly wouldn't have made any difference to the plot.
It just feels goofy, and like I don't know, like the grenade throw right in the beginning of the movie, like, you know, it's just a little bit of a goofy tone, like when the Norwegian guy tries to throw the grenade and it just falls behind him and blows up the helicopter. Like, that's kind of silly, but it's like that tone isn't really in the movie for a lot of it. It's just literally like that saucer moment.
Well, and I was gonna say, I like, same as you guys, I feel that's where the movie lets down, is anytime it tries to inject like that real campy sci-fi stuff.
And I get that he was probably trying to like homage to its like origins of flying saucer movies from the 50s.
Of course, yeah.
And I think like even not just the original of this, but like I know he's been very vocal, like, you know, at John Carpenter as a kid, like that's what he was into.
Yeah.
And I get it, I appreciate it. But yeah, like you guys said, like I don't think it adds anything to the tension or the story.
No.
It kind of takes you out of it. And also, I think there would be more tension, you know, which I think a lot of horror movies that do this, we see that it works, where the less we know about this thing, the better.
Like, I kept thinking if it was off screen, it would even be more acceptable. I just didn't want to see it.
Yeah.
You know?
For me, it was just kind of like, I wish he kind of based this off of like the Mountains of Madness or something, like a Lovecraft story, in terms of like, we don't know what it is. It is something dark and, you know, eldritch, essentially, that we unearth beneath the ice, and there's not really an explanation for what it is, because we get what it is, like it's some sort of alien organism. We get that through watching the movie. And they say
that it had been there for like 100,000 years, which gives it that Lovecraftian ancient, you know.
Yeah, it just doesn't have to be a flying saucer. Like it's goofy. It's a holdover from like a completely different movie, like tonally. The other thing that kind of bumps for me is I wish they slightly jostled around the like generator and burning down the whole facility logic, because they burn like half the base, and then they go down into the generator room, and then they're like concerned about turning the generator back on, and then they're like, oh, it's gone. He's like, well, what do you mean it's gone? It's gone. And I'm like, why do you guys even fucking care at this point? You're already burning down half the base. Why couldn't they have checked that first and then realized, okay, we can't get the power back on, let's burn this bitch down? It's just like, it's a logic thing that it's like, this movie is so smart the entire time that I'll be like, oh, they forgot to test Blair's blood. And like literally the next line out of someone's mouth is like, we got to go test Blair's blood, you know? That it's just like, I feel like I am completely in line with the guys in the movie, that I never have to question any of their logic or any of their reasoning. And then it's just like that like one little thing.
Except for that,
except for that moment. And that moment also happened like 5 to 10 minutes after the saucer moment. So it's like, man, there's a couple of missteps right at the end of this that like, it makes me go like, oh, damn, I just wish this was a little bit different here.
I agree with that, because I did think on this watch the exact same thing. I was like, you guys have already committed that you're like, you gotta basically kill yourselves.
Yes.
But now you're worried about like, oh, we need power.
Yeah, and also I think a fuse blows earlier in the movie as well, right? So like, how do they know this is a like, it could have just been another fuse blowing. How did they know that the generator was out, or how did they know at the time that there was absolutely no hope of ever getting the power back on? You know what I mean? Like, it's just a weird choice. Like, I understand why they do it in terms of they want the big, like, final boss fight, you know, the climax of the movie to happen in the generator room, but you could have come up with a different reason to get back down there, I feel like.
Yeah, it's just, like, mechanical. Really, right? Like, it's just, we need to move from point A to point B to point C.
For sure, yeah.
I was gonna say, too, my big thing with this watch especially is if anyone had ever asked me, I would say I'm not a Kirk Douglas fan.
Are you trying to say Kurt Russell?
Kurt Russell, sorry.
I was gonna say.
I don't know why I said literally gonna divorce you.
So, no.
You just caused our divorce, so just know that right now.
But listen, what I'm saying is, like, in my mind, I'm always like, you know, like, Kurt Russell, like, yeah, he's in the thing, he's in some, like, Escape from New York and that, and I'm like, yeah, like, whatever. But every time I see him in something, I'm like, man, I really like Kurt Russell.
Because he's amazing.
I know. But I'm not gonna lie, to me, Keith David, just star of the movie.
I knew that he was gonna come up.
Fucking love Keith David, A. And he's the man. B.
Fair. I'll give you that.
Yeah, for me, I don't think anyone's really like a standout. Like, obviously, yes, they position Kurt Russell as like the star of the movie, but for me, it's just like all of the different characters have like defining characteristics about them, and they get enough screen time that even though I wouldn't be able to name them because I just suck at names in movies, but like I can basically be like, oh, okay, that's the guy with the sunglasses, that's the guy with kind of the fro, that's the guy with, you know, that's the old guy.
It's definitely more of an ensemble piece than you might think it's going to be going into it, for sure.
Yes, yeah. I mean, like, obviously Kurt Russell's positioned as like the helicopter pilot, the fly to the Norwegian base and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just, I don't really have a favorite. It's like, you know, I'm fine with everyone dying is a weird way to say it, but I mean, it's just kind of like you feel like when they die, you go like, okay, that's another one gone. Like, you know, it's it's
Let's
just like
get
a matter
through
of fact. Yeah, exactly, right?
Although I will say I don't know the actor's name. I can't remember the character's name, but the guy that plays like the radio guy that always has the Windows, yeah.
I was like, oh, are they calling him Windows because he always has glasses on?
I was this view. I was a big fan of Windows. I was just like, man, this guy's awesome.
Honestly, I think Windows was like the voice of reason. They're like, you have to get a hold of somebody, and he's like, bitch, please, we're out in the middle of fucking Antarctica. Like, who am I getting a hold of? Like,
I love that.
Fucking put your big boy panties on.
Yeah, I love that right at the beginning of the movie too. Like, McCready just like ruins one of the like only computers they have, like in terms of like that you can interface
like,
or like it's just like pours his drink.
Rage quit. That was the OG rage quit. Him fucking dumping his bourbon
so bad
inside that computer.
Yeah.
By the way, I love that fucking computer. I love that like insanely high tech fucking chess machine.
You want that computer so you can play chess just all day while you drink?
Well, I don't know how to play chess. I feel like it would sass me enough that I'd either give up completely or learn how to play chess like Bobby Fischer.
Well, it's not hard to learn how to play chess. It's hard to be good at chess.
Okay, but see, some of us can't remember things like which way pieces move, so it is kind of hard to learn chess.
Okay.
I have a really shit memory, so...
You gotta watch The Queen's Gambit, man. Take some notes.
Okay, fair. If anybody can teach me how to play chess, it's gonna be Anya Taylor-Joy.
Yes.
So in real 3-year anniversary fashion, I'm gonna channel fallen comrade Exilia in this complaint. Because I know in her mind, when we watched this together, she was thinking it was all movies, especially like older movies where like he's on the computer and the cell's doing like its sequence.
Yeah.
And like these, you know, computers that like couldn't even run like a DOS system are like super high tech and like figuring out all these complicated scientific problems.
The alien cells are replicating the animal cells. Bitch.
It's so good though, because it like literally spells it out for us on screen that it says there is a 75% chance that one or more crew members are infected, right? So instantly, where you've probably been thinking in that movie that it's like, okay, one person is infected. Who is it? You're like, oh shit! It instantly like
it could
opens
be
up.
Like All of them, yeah.
Yeah, it opens up the doors that it's like, oh shit, it is more than one person, right? It literally spells it out
to be
for you.
fair, it's very good at like cutting out probably 15 minutes of like exposition that would really bog down the movie. So I will give it that. And you know what? I just feel like they're still ahead of the curve because I feel like computers still can't do a lot of that. But hey, listen, I can ask Siri to do almost anything for me, so they were ahead of their time.
I feel like
I'll give them a bit of
just
credit.
Spoiled. Like, I mean, I remember the days of dial-up, but I just know when those cells are moving, I'm like, come on, let's get, like, I'd be resetting my modem, and if that happens, I need a better connection than this slow-ass cell
but girl,
moving.
you saw that fucking fancy-ass walnut-paneled VCR by Panasonic they were using to watch their pre-recorded videotapes. You know, if they could afford that insanely beautiful VCR, that they were throwing some money at their computers, okay?
Yeah, this is very true. I mean, I don't even know how long we've been talking about this movie, and I'm still surprised that Mike has yet to bring up music.
Girl, it's literally the first thing I have written down on my notes.
It is.
The score.
I will confirm to the listeners. It is
okay.
The first thing.
I was holding it up to my webcam. Like, literally, John Carpenter cannot be praised enough.
He's a god
for his musical ability. Like, he is somebody that I feel like maybe last week there was some posts making the rounds on like Twitter about, I think it was like Scorsese like singing his praises and talking about how he doesn't get enough credit as being like an absolute like genius, you know, master craftsman. And I was thinking that before we even started to watch this for the podcast. He's really like, he's right. He is an actual, like, master craftsman. And then when I was watching this, I was like, every time I watch one of his movies, I'm like, oh yeah, I ordered that CD back in the day or whatever. Like, I got it imported from, like, you know, Italy or whatever, because I was, like, obsessed. Every movie I watched of his, I was like, oh my god, this fucking soundtrack. It's not just, like, a horror score. It's, like, just an album. Like, if some instrumental, like, prog rock group put it out, it would have been, like, a huge hit. You know, like on the like prog rock charts in the 80s or whatever.
Wait, you said Scorsese. Did you mean Carpenter when you said that, or was someone praising Scorsese then? He was
singing Carpenter's praises.
Oh,
that's what I was trying to say. Yeah,
gotcha.
It was like an interview with him where he was saying like, and actually I think he was talking about something being like not appreciated at the time, and it might have even been The Thing.
Oh, okay,
but yeah, and anyway, but you know, everybody's like the Halloween score, right? Like being iconic and legendary, and everyone's like, oh my god, like but like I just think like you watch any of his movies, even like the kind of, you know, quote lesser ones, and like Escape from New York, the absolute like pulsing, atmospheric, like moody scores that he comes up with, like he is a genius musician too. It's like, fuck, I know it was born out of a like DIY, I have a low budget and I have to do this myself, but like, goddamn, like I think that he does better music for movies and music in general than most people whose like literal only job is to score movies. People who score like blockbusters, I don't think are as good at it as him.
Well,
because he's so minimalist, you know, it just, oh, fuck. I'm just like, I'm like wetting myself here. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Well, yeah, it's probably like, I think the guy literally has like concerts and stuff now, doesn't he? That he like sells out where he just like grooves.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's been putting out albums for the last, like, I don't know, maybe 10 years or so. And it's like essentially movie scores with no movies.
Yeah, I think this one, like, obviously a lot of people, when they think of John Carpenter, they just point to the use of like synths, right? But in this one, there's actually a lot of like violin squeals, which is like a very modern trapping of horror. And I kind of like, I assume The Thing isn't the first one to use violin squeals, obviously, for a horror movie. But as I was watching it, I was like, oh, this is like, it kind of elevates the score from just being like a great John Carpenter score, that it's like, oh, this also feels somewhat modern as well when I'm listening to it because of the violin. And it was just like, oh, this is a very good score.
Well, and the interesting thing about this, I mean, first, my hot take, I think this is a far better score than Halloween.
Oh, 100%. I've listened to this score just like sitting down while doing other things way more than Halloween. Halloween's very niche. It's it's like listening to the Psycho score.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and it has like
you can sit down and do it, but it has no like application outside of the movie, right?
It has one killer track, essentially, like one or two like really good tracks.
Yeah.
Obviously, the theme is absolutely iconic, right? Like far more iconic than the score. But this is just more consistent, for sure.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, this is something that you can stretch out over an hour.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's movements, whereas, like you said, those are more moments.
Yeah, well, and what I think is interesting about this score, I can't think of his name. So there was someone that wasn't Carpenter that scored this film that does like the violins. And...
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to remember his name too. I've listened to it 8 million times, and for whatever reason, it's totally.
And I was gonna say it's impressive because the movie wasn't done when he scored it. Like, he just scored it blindly. So this guy was like, I'm just gonna do pieces and you put them in. But to me, and that's why I love the score so much, is I don't think that guy's parts are iconic in it. I think it's all the tonal stuff Carpenter does to supplement it that, like, bring it to that level, which to me is just super impressive because I can't think of the guy's name, but like the guy is, a professional classical composer, and then Carpenter's just elevating it to a whole new level.
It's on the tip of my tongue, and I feel like an idiot,
I can't think of his name.
Wait, are you guys talking about Ennio Morricone?
Yeah,
he did it, and there's some other guy I think that was in it too.
Okay,
but yes, that's
I was gonna say, because Ennio Morricone, like, that dude's absolutely iconic for music as well, right? So if it is like a collaborative effort, right, between them, like, no wonder it is something special.
Yeah, exactly. Either one of them on their own makes like legendary scoring, but like two of them together.
Yeah.
I will add, because the listeners are probably going to be interested to know, I noticed that Mike was talking about the soundtrack, how wet he made them. I just got noticed that Mike has been added to the wetness Mount Rushmore. So Mike, you're the fifth wettest thing.
I love to be the fifth. I love being the fifth wheel, or the fifth, I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, that joke went on way too long.
Let's pretend that never happened.
I know Colton brought it up. Do we want to talk about like the intricacies of like the infection, like who it infected, all that kind of stuff?
I don't know if we need to get into like the details of how it's passed from one person to another, but I think if we're gonna talk about who is infected, I think we need to discuss the ending for sure.
Yeah, like, well, this is what we really want to get to.
Yeah, how do you guys fall on the ending?
Just jump to it. All
right, get into the glints in people's eyes and the mouth vapor and stuff, Rowan. I'm sure you got it there.
So my reading of it was that Kurt Russell is the thing. That was always my reading, and that handing him the bottle, because we're told, towards the beginning of the film, or kind of the middle, we're told like, you guys need to prepare your own food and drinks. You can't share. And
eat from cans, etc.
Yeah, eat from cans, where he purposely, when Childs comes back and they sit down, they do the, well, I don't know if you're the thing. I don't know if you're the thing. And then Kurt Russell's like, oh, here, have a drink and we'll see. And then Childs drinks it. And then we specifically get that quick camera shot of Kurt Russell smiling while he drinks it. And I always assumed that he's just like, oh, I got you now.
That's funny, because I completely think it's Childs. Like, like, to me, I am so strongly that I believe it's Childs that I don't even think it's an ambiguous ending. Like, no, for me, it's literally like, well, first of all, he wanders off in the blizzard chasing after somebody like without a jacket and all that stuff, which is absolutely crazy. There's I read this online, but it is true. When he appears in the final shot of the film, he's wearing a different color jacket than he's been wearing for most of the movie, which is just instantly like, why is he wearing a different color jacket? The thing is known, like, when it possesses someone, like, it winds up like shedding like its clothing, right? And then it needs to put on new clothes, right? And I think there was like all this stuff which has been debunked, and when I was watching it, I was like, this is just absolute horse shit, where they were talking about how earlier in the movie the cinematographer like didn't put key lights in somebody's eyes during the blood scene to kind of telegraph which person is infected. So people were saying near the end, like, Keith David didn't have the key lights in his eyes, which, I mean, when I rewatched it, like, he does have key lights at some points when he adjusts his posturing. So I think it's literally just like, I think that's just like an urban legend around the movie.
Yeah.
But it was just like, he was so conveniently off screen for so long and doing just weird ass things and just wandering towards him at the end that I think it was very much like how I read the ending was, I know like Rowan said like, oh, he kind of like chuckles or smiles like, Kurt Russell does. But the way I read it was literally like, I'm screwed anyway. I know like we're both not getting out of this. It was just like, I might as well share a drink with it. And it's almost like hopelessly laughing at like, he's just screwed. Like he doesn't have anything left in the tank to even fight this off. He doesn't know for certain that he is the thing, but it's also like, I don't care anymore. I'm done, They go
out of their way to show like how like volatile he is and kind of like easily set off, and then at the end it's just he seems like so serene. It's just so bizarre. Also, I never do like, very rarely do I do like dives because I don't ever want to do too much research because I don't want to like taint my reading. But when I was looking for images of young Kurt Russell from this movie to make a tweet about, when I was trying to find a really good one that I was looking for, I happened on a web page, and I just read like a couple lines of something saying how people apparently were theorizing that at the end that it was not a drink of alcohol, but it was the Molotov cocktail gasoline.
And that's why he laughs.
And I was like, and I never read too much into it, but I was like, as soon as I saw that, I was like, okay, I'm not going to read anymore, but I totally get where they're coming from.
So
that's such an interesting theory.
It's a very popular fan theory because I don't think McCready actually drinks from the bottle. I think he's about to drink from the bottle, and then he just decides to pass it to Childs instead. And obviously we saw him like a couple scenes before making all the Molotovs to blow up the whole thing. So that's like where it stems from, that it's like he is laughing because he just gave Childs gasoline and the dude just drank it like it was nothing, right? But obviously there's nothing really there to support that. It's a kind of a strange...
exactly.
But it is an interesting reading,
And I was going to say another one I had seen was also, which I tried to look for in this. I found it really hard to see, but I've seen some people argue for and against that. Someone said that Childs still had his earring in, and that when the thing takes you over, that it actually like gets rid of any.
So that's something that's established in the 2011 movie, not in this one, right?
Well, and then they're bringing it back to this reading. But I've also seen, because like I said, they really shadow that last image of Childs.
Well,
so
that's the
like
thing,
I couldn't overly see if he had the earring. So then I was like, well, if you're bringing that back, well, if he doesn't have, if he doesn't have the earring, then maybe also yes.
It's just, I don't know. I feel like there's other people in the movie, like, because they all have like weird piercings, like one of them has like the nose ring and stuff like that. Like, is it consistent that like when he becomes infected, he doesn't have his nose ring? Or like, once again, like I've seen readings of this where it's like, well, in the final scene, Childs, like when he breathes, there's no vapor that comes out of his mouth. And then it's just like, no, guys, it's just a dark shot. And if you're watching it closely, like in HD, you can see that there is vapor that comes out of his mouth. It's just, obviously Kurt Russell is sitting facing the flames and Childs is facing back onto the flames, right?
They didn't drink enough coffee. I saw that what was kind of interesting was a lot of the sets, because they shot this in BC, they shot this in Alaska, but they also did a lot of the sets just like in a studio in LA.
In a refrigerator, right? A refrigerated soundstage?
Like refrigerated it. And Carpenter talks about like how shitty it was because they couldn't get people's breath to show.
Yeah.
So he's like, we'd basically have to get them to scald their mouths with hot coffee, and they'd have to drink all this super hot coffee and then immediately shoot so they could see like the breath in the air.
It's funny, like in modern movies, whenever it's cold, like that is something I spot like a mile away, that it's like, oh, they got the CGI breath in here. Like,
exactly.
It's so obvious they can't nail it for whatever reason.
But I was gonna say, as we sit here and we, we're like, oh, Childs or whoever, like, to me, yet another sign of just kind of the greatness of this movie. Like, I don't know, not everyone loves it, but man, I love like an ambiguous ending that like, I can go on the internet and just deep dive into 8 million conspiracies. We haven't brought up anything about the Thing and being representative of the fake moon landing or any. I'm just kidding.
I was gonna say, let's not get into this again.
I'm just bringing trauma back to Colton.
But yeah, no, it's a great ending, and like as soon as it ended this time, like I was talking to Josh again, and we were kind of like going back and forth, like who do you think it is? And both of us just on our own like decided like it does. Like my reading of the movie was Child's, and then when I read up on like I don't know these popular like infection timelines, you know, where someone's like I spent 2 weeks breaking down every scene of this movie, and I know the ultimate infection, like they settled on Child's as well, which is like it was just kind of like okay, well at least it supports my read of the movie, I guess. But I completely understand what Rowan's saying. Yeah.
Are you telling me, Colton, you didn't break this film down for 2 weeks?
No.
Shot by shot?
No, I've only seen it a handful of times, like I said. Not at that point yet.
Not at the point that just go through every still motion of it.
I mean, there's much worse movies you could do that with. This wouldn't be as much of a chore as some other ones. That's for sure.
So I think it's important to bring up, I guess, kind of the legacy of this. I thought it was interesting just when I was looking about it. So this wasn't like successful when it came out at all. Like I saw it was like a $15 million budget and only made $19 million. It was kind of considered a flop, which is interesting because this was Carpenter talks about, this was like the big studio came a knocking and was like, well, you can do whatever you want, like just anything, we want you, your films make money, and I just think it's interesting that, not a success, but, going forward now, I mean, I think a lot of people have this as like one of the great horror movies.
100%. Yeah, this would definitely
be.
Yeah, this would definitely be in probably like my top 5 horror movies, right? So it is like, even though it wasn't a big hit when it came out, it's just so iconic now. I think it was people like, I don't know if Roger Ebert said it about this movie, but I know like just like the gore and effects for a lot of people were just like too much at the time. Like it was just like, what about the children,
Yeah, and that's kind of what I've always thought looking at it. I'm like, for sure, like the gore was probably an issue at the time. Because, even Carpenter talked about like he knew like we're doing stuff that people haven't seen before. And it's just like super, super gory. And I think especially, if you're, the casual, like, oh, I saw Halloween in the theater, that John Carpenter guy. Like, there's no gore in Halloween.
Basically, yep.
So, yeah, you're kind of getting that, like, shock to the system. Is there anything else we want to talk about with this? I feel, hopefully we're not beating too much on a dead horse. I mean, everyone talks about this movie. Everyone... it's a very talked about film.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, I have notes there, but we've pretty much touched on everything. It's like, this is one of those movies you could probably go scene by scene and say something about like almost every scene. I guess before we leave, I want to mention this is a silly point, but one of my friends, she always mentions about how good like the animals are as an actor in the movies. Oh, that's such a good dog actor or whatever, because it's like, I don't know, looking happy and wagging its tail or something. The dog in this movie is actually a good actor, which is funny. It's really like they got it trained so perfectly.
I was thinking that, honestly.
Yeah, it's just the way it's like staring, the way it's posed in scenes, the way like it's always chilling. It's just like a presence that's always there and watching. And I like that feeling of being watched is one of those like primal like fears of mine that it's like whenever I see it like done well on screen, it always like gets under my skin. So yeah, the dog, I have to point out, the dog is actually a good actor in this movie.
Carpenter actually talks about it. He says this is the best animal he ever worked with. So the dog is like a trained actor. It was kind of funny. He talked about the scene where they bring the dog in with the other dogs.
Yeah.
None of those dogs were acting dogs.
Oh, okay.
So he said it was like this really big issue because he was like, hey, you're trying to get them to all lay down.
Yeah.
And you bring in this dog, and he's like, automatically, they just want to jump up and start barking at the dog.
Yeah.
So he was like saying it was like this, and he was like, so it really helped that they could use the rubber dog, because he's like, we put the rubber dog and the dogs didn't care. It was just the real dog. But he was saying that they didn't, and he said it was just kind of, one of those things that works out. Like, they didn't instruct the dog not to look at the camera.
Yeah.
But he talks about, like, the dog just never looked at the camera, so it made it that more creepy.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I'll give this one dog an okay from me.
Yeah, I forgot you were a dog hater.
Yeah, I am. I'm a dog hater. Horror hounds. Do you guys like horror music? I like horror music. Exilia likes horror music. We know Mike definitely loves horror music. So if you love horror music like we do, join us on Spotify. We have a playlist up called the It Slays Podcast Horrific Playlist. We have some of our favorite tasty jams from some of our favorite horror movies, and we're always consistently adding to the list. And let us know. You can email us or Facebook or Instagram us and let us know if there's anything we should add to the playlist. So we will get into rating it. If you are new to the program, our rating system is nay, okay, yay, or slay. We will start with the Thing aficionado, Mike.
Fucking slay. Of course, like, there was any doubt. Classic, peak period, John Carpenter, with a brutally amazing score, and young, at his peak, Kurt Russell with a giant unkempt beard and hair. What is not to love about this movie? What is not to love? Tell me, I want to know. If you're going to disagree with me, tell me that it's not a slay.
No arguments.
No, I'm not gonna argue with you either, Mike. Yeah, just like the sense of like dread and paranoia, like this movie just like conjures up amongst the viewer as well, where you're constantly wondering like who is infected, which one of them is the Thing. It makes you like an active participant in a movie, unlike a lot of other movies do. Like, sure, there's whodunits and murder mysteries that like that's kind of what they're doing the entire time, but I don't know if I've seen it like so effectively done in a horror movie. Like I said, there's a couple of very small like nitpicks near the third act for me that kind of don't land as well as they should.
Yeah.
But I mean, no movie I don't think is like truly perfect, but this is pretty close to it for like a horror movie. So it's an absolute slay for me, and I think it's it's a masterpiece of like body horror for sure.
Ro, what do you think? Are we gonna have to get divorced for the third time this hour?
I mean, this is a 100% a slay.
I was gonna say, all right.
Okay.
A masterclass in special effects, a masterclass in tension, a masterclass in everything, really. Like I said, even the parts that we griped about, I don't have that big of a gripe about. The sci-fi stuff I can live with. It's still cool, it's still whatever. It doesn't take enough away from this movie to make me not like it. I mean, do I think this is a slay on the level of like a Predator 2? Probably not. It's probably below.
But what is?
God.
What is?
I mean, yeah, like there's no Danny Glover, there's no Gary Busey. I mean, it could use a couple of those things.
We're not getting into this again.
No, but it's awesome. It's awesome. If you haven't seen it, what are you doing with your life? Hey, why did you listen to this whole episode and let us ruin it for you? I can't even say we would have ruined it for you. You just watch it. If you haven't seen it, watch it. If you've seen it 10 times, go watch it an 11th time.
Yeah.
This movie's just as good
Period.
every time I watch it. I like it more and more as I get older. It's perfection. It's chef's kiss. Perfect. So, since we talked about what we would rate it, we asked you guys on social media, what do you think? And we did get a couple answers on Facebook and Instagram. So on the old Facebook, we got a response from Sean Pierce. Are you guys sitting in your seats? He said he thinks it's overrated.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Listen, I mean...
No explanation. Just, he said it was overrated.
I'm open to hearing about such an opinion with context.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Give me context.
Maybe write in a little bit more, Sean, and explain, why you think it's overrated. But yeah, I mean, I'd listen to it. I don't know if I'd agree.
Fair. Maybe you're just not a John Carpenter fan. It's okay. We still love you.
We still love you. So we did. Holy crap! Good thing I own my Instagram, people, because we got more answers.
Oh, awesome! All right.
While we have not been paying attention, so creepy girly on Instagram said, one word, awesome. She didn't say one word. She just said awesome. Our good friend, author Brad Dunn, responded with one of the goat emojis.
Yes.
Agreed.
Yep.
Agreed. McKill_426 said, love this movie. That blood test scene still feels tense every time I watch it.
Completely agree.
There we go.
Yep.
Brad also again just sent a goat emoji again.
He really wants to drive home his point.
Yeah, two goats from Brad.
It's the double, as to paraphrase Blanche Devereaux from Golden Girls, it's the seldom achieved double goat emoji review from Brad Dunn.
And then our last one is from A+ Drivers NL.
Oh, okay.
They said wet and gross, but excellent.
Yep. Honestly, everything about that, totally on point.
So, our next segment, a new segment. We have to bring something new after 3 years. We're like, these guys are going to get tired of the same old thing. Do you want to do the honors, Colton?
Yeah, I mean, let me bring it up here. But yeah, essentially, we're going to listen to some of the voicemails you've all sent into our horrific hotline.
This is for Horror Hotline. I'm looking for your top 5 game changer movies. Game changer now. Something that just revolutionized that shit. This is Sean. What's up, Rowan? Yeah. Top 5 game changers. All right, cool. Thanks. Keep doing what you're doing.
Well, thanks for calling it, Sean.
Top 5. Sean Pierce again. He'll get angry if we say the thing, won't he? He thinks it's overrated.
I love it.
This is hard. I don't know if on the spot we can do like each top 5. Do we each just kind of want to pick one and then we'll settle
I was gonna say
on
we'll
two?
just mishmash 5 together.
As long as we're not doing purely horror movies, then I'll have an issue. But just top personal 4, I can definitely do. I got him there on Letterboxd, you know. So
I'm trying to think. But he said specifically horror, didn't he?
Did he? Oh shit!
Yeah, I think he said horror.
Okay, well,
all right. I'll go right away.
Yeah.
To me, let's go a little newer. Get Out, 100%.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
I would put that on mine too.
I think, for a black voice in horror, especially a director, something that was like so impactful to the culture in general. Yeah, Get Out would be one of mine. How about you, Mike?
Okay, this is not going to be definitive because I'm literally just thinking of it off the top of my head.
Yeah, I'm racking my brain too.
Be like,
go for it.
Get Out would definitely be one of them. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Nightmare on Elm Street, 3 particularly. Psycho, Scream, several Wes Craven adjacent movies there, but again, this is literally just being put on the spot like that. So those are absolute game changers for me personally. I'm not saying like that's everyone's game changers, but I feel like they all kind of like carved out a little new spot in the old wet Mount Rushmore there.
Yeah, for me, like obviously I agree. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We just did The Shining, which I think is just one of the best horror movies of all time. The Thing, which we literally just did, I agree with that as well. A little bit of a lesser known horror movie that I think is like absolutely excellent is The Devils, which is a Ken Russell movie that was like banned for years.
Ken Russell! Oh my god, I got totally stoned watching that one time and like completely...
Dude, the
by
Devils...
the way, short-circuited my brain.
Yeah, I've only watched it for the first time within the last year, and it was just because it had all this hype on Shudder about how it was a banned movie and whatnot. Yeah. But yeah, no, my friend and I, like, we have a weekly or bi-weekly like horror movie night, and when we watched that, we both like absolutely loved it. Like easy 5-star movie for me. Some more modern choices. I really loved It Follows when it came out. I don't know if every single time I watch it holds up quite as well as the very first time I watched it, where I was like absolutely like terrified in the theater and just like completely vibing with it as well. And I don't know, I think I would probably put The Lighthouse. I do have out of 5-star, and I know The Lighthouse is not like an easy one, but I have to like point out one of those like elevated horror movies.
It was a game changer though in a lot of ways.
I have to point out, like a lot of people would probably point to The Witch for that, but I prefer The Lighthouse. So personally, like, I I think, Robert Eggers is just constantly changing the game. So.
Oh, yeah.
What about you, Rowan? We vamped on. You must have a couple other picks by now.
Yeah, so one that we did review, I'm going to say Friday the 13th. I think it kind of, I think it changed the game for just like slasher genre, like pointless gore, kills, stuff like that. We hadn't really seen anything till that came. This is a hard one.
Also,
I'm gonna say
the killer in the movie too. Like that was huge with Friday the 13th, where like it actually, Jason Voorhees wasn't even the killer like in the first one, right? It was awesome.
And I'm gonna switch it up a bit because I feel like most people a go-to would be Night of the Living Dead, but I'm gonna go with Day of the Living Dead. I think that is kind of, I don't know if I'd say it's the first, game changer realistically. For me, it was where that was the first movie I ever saw that really pointed at like, we are the monsters, not the monsters.
Yeah.
Like Day of the Dead is just, to me, it's everything that really scares me in movies, just like breakdown of society and, that Lord of the Flies, just like kill or be killed survival thing. I think that's a game changer and also a great soundtrack. So I feel like that's on top of the head. I feel like we've given a lot of different answers.
Yeah, maybe some point in the future we'll do like an actual like Q&A episode or something and actually get into our top 5 horror movies. I need a lot more time, I think, than just off the top of my head. But hopefully we satisfied a couple there for you, Sean.
Hey, it's Lace Podcast. It's your friend Patrick from over at the Every Horror Movie on Netflix podcast. I wanted to call and wish you all a happy anniversary, but I'm going to be real with you. We got more important things than that to talk about. First you got Colton over there daring to say that he's got a problem with Malignant. Okay, I can take that. It was only one of the best films of 2021, but fine. But then you have me on to talk Paranormal Activity 1 and 2, which is a fine and gentlemanly activity, and Exilia has the audacity to disagree with me on just about everything. But you know what? That wasn't even the worst of it. Look, I like the movie Hush, and I've been wanting to choose it for our podcast to review for well over a year now. I had plans to pick it next month. And if everything else wasn't bad enough, I just found out that y'all have the absolute ball to review it in the same damn month.
Oh, man, he's shade.
Well, look, it's like podcast. A horror fan can only take so much. I've had it with this little Cold War between our podcasts, and so I propose a challenge. You send that Malignant hater Colton over to our show for our Hush review, and we'll send Steven over to your show for your Hush review. I don't know what it's going to prove exactly, but we'll see who has the best Hush review. We'll see who the best horror podcast is once and for all. And we'll probably have a lot of fun.
Oh, man.
I love you. Bye.
Patrick throwing the gauntlet down. I'm obsessed.
So angry.
I'm obsessed.
Oh my God. And also spoiling that we were going to be reviewing Hush regardless of, it not winning our poll.
So angry and so just such disregard for our listeners that he just spoiled it out of spite, I'm sure.
Well, I can already answer who the best horror podcast is. It's whichever one I'm on that week, which will be, I guess, every horror movie on Netflix.
Which coincidentally will not be us.
Will not be this one, yeah. But no, I'll go on there. I'll hate on Malignant some more, and I feel like on their latest episode, he had some positive things to say about Jurassic Park. So maybe we can broker a peace, possibly. We'll see.
You can
Patrick.
Find some common ground.
Yeah,
yes.
do the old Predator handshake,
Yeah. We'll send you on the peaceful mission and hopefully reconcile the differences.
We'll just see if we can do that.
We have one more that we had some technical difficulties, and Steven from Every Horror Movie on Netflix tried to call in, and he couldn't get it to work, so he just messaged me and, said happy anniversary, and he did have a question he wanted us to answer. So he said, I wanted to ask y'all what your favorite Valentine's Day horror movies are. Minor Possession from 1981 and The Fly from 1986. Love me a doomed relationship story with a fucked up monster.
Man, one of you guys are going to have to go first for sure. I have no clue. I'm going to try and furiously Google this.
I don't even have to think about it.
I will agree with them on Possession, I will also agree with Rowan and say My Bloody Valentine.
My Bloody Valentine.
It's a serve, Canadian serve.
That's
Cynthia
right.
Dale,
we're representing Canada all day up here.
Oh my god, I have no clue, guys. I'm trying to even see like what ones are specifically about Valentine's Day.
Yeah, Steven, Colton doesn't believe in love.
Also, the movie Valentine, which I remember finding mediocre a million years ago when I watched it, but I feel like if I rewatched it now, I might appreciate it more.
It's having a real renaissance.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. A lot of people are posting about it, so I feel like I need to revisit it. So thank you for that prompt to go back and watch Valentine.
Bro, I have no clue. I'm just going to say My Bloody Valentine as well and just embarrass myself that I've never seen it. Which is,
oh my god.
I know, it's crazy. I listened to your guys' podcast review, but I haven't seen it myself, so maybe I'll have to rectify that.
I'm sorry, Steven. He does not know that which he does. I mean, realistically, there's not a lot of Valentine's Day horror movies. Although no, that's
yeah, but you could make anything a Valentine's Day horror movie.
I guess. I mean,
again, I love his inclusion of just fucked up relationships because that could be a lot of things. That could be like, anything really. I'm thinking Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker because I just got the Blu-ray in the mail.
Oh, I'm jealous. I still haven't got it yet.
I don't know. I one of my recent favorite horror movies that had to do with love and dating, at least, was Fresh, which I watched at Sundance there earlier this month or last month. But yeah, I don't know. I'm drawing a blank. I can't think of like any horror movies that are involved around love. It Follows, I guess. I don't know. But that's obviously not Valentine's, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, so Steven just slumping us here. Don't come with any of those hard questions with me and Mike, all right?
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm glad that I'm not on the same podcast as him if he's going to be throwing haymakers like that.
We like the easy questions. Listen, I already know when Steven comes on, Colton's going to get upset at us. We're never going to talk about the movie because all me and Steven ever talk about is soundtracks ever. So I know it's just going to be me, Steven, and Mike talking about whatever music is in. I don't even know if there's music in Hush.
I can't even remember. Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if that's known for a banger soundtrack or not. But I mean, I'll love to listen to it, I guess, as a listener. That's the one thing I'm looking forward to. I won't actually be on that episode, so I can listen to it as a fan. So just stay tuned to our social media platforms, at It Slays Podcast on Instagram, Twitter. I mean, Facebook, you could probably just search up It Slays Podcast and find us. But also, I mean, if you want to, support the podcast in a different way other than your follow, which of course we appreciate, you can always head on over to patreon.com/itslayspodcast and pledge at whatever amount you feel comfortable. Don't feel obligated to do so, but maybe if you have some extra income, you can toss it our way. And yeah.
But I think that is everything. Thank you for joining us on our 3-year extravaganza. Before we go, we have to announce the next movie, and it's a Mike pick. And it's a Mike pick, I will say, that I don't overly groan at. So, Mike, announce that movie.
Okay, we're doing Tales from the Crypt presents Demon Knight with a K.
Billy Zane.
And the incomparable Jada Pinkett.
When I was laying in bed this morning, I was watching Bordello of Blood on VHS.
I actually thought about cheating and doing a Rowan and making it a twofer, but I'm not a fucking sadist like you.
So, get your eyeballs on that. I know I've got the Scream Factory version of that, so I'm always excited to crack that open. But yeah, I think that's everything. Yeah, thanks for all the support. Lots of downloads happening. I think we got a couple people I saw that are downloading like the whole kit and caboodle from the introduction. So good luck.
Not the introduction.
Good luck on that. Hopefully,
not me with my 20-year-old hardware.
When they catch up to this, in 6 months' time, they'll hear the shout out.
Yeah.
If you're wondering, yes, Mike was recording with a strain-in tin can. So when real,
that's what I do. That's how I communicate.
But I think that is everything. As always, I am your humble host, Rowan.
Bye, it's Mike.
And it's Colton.
See you later.
We're going to expand our weekly video segment to take you into the back shelves of your local video store, back where it says horror videos, and where kids are devouring some awful films that we call the video nasties.
Are you freebasing? Inquiring minds want to know.
I have to break free from this culture of mechanical reproductions and the thick incrustations dying on the surface.
But the prime time gets.
Mom with the new flesh.
The pain, I can assure you, will be exquisite. As for our deaths, come with me and be immortal.
We have such sights to show you.
We've got to return some videotapes.